It's very exciting to see all of these faces or all of these names coming in to the room. I guess it's not faces, all of these names. Bonjour, bonsoir, bon après-midi.
Bonsoir. Merci. Bonjour à vous.
Ça, c'est un ami de la Côte d'Ivoire, Trika.
Oui, c'est ça.
Moi, je suis ivoirienne, 100%.
Ah, ça c'est bien alors. Donc, bonsoir ma sœur. Alors.
Bon, je vais parler en anglais pour la présentation et tout cela, pour faciliter la situation avec les interpréteurs. Mais je voudrais juste dire bonjour. Et l'Afrique de l'Ouest est très, je m'appelle Mania Dotson. Et je fais partie de la présentation aujourd'hui. Et but avant de commencer, je voudrais juste dire en français bonjour, mes frères et mes sœurs. On a habité en Côte d'Ivoire et au Togo et j'ai travaillé dans toute la région ouest africaine pendant 8 ans. Et c'est vraiment un plaisir de me trouver encore entre les Ouest Africains.
Good morning to people who have just joined. Why don't we, it would be great if you, as you're joining, to please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Thank you. I see some people are starting to do that already. It would be great to hear what organization and country you are joining from. We'll just give a couple more minutes for more people to join. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and welcome to the final West Africa Regional Learning Network webinar.
Good to see you, Joseph Trika. Loyal attendee every time Joseph
That's
is here.
Right. It's great to see you. Welcome, Emily.
Me too.
I wish we could hang out.
Okay, maybe we can just go to the next slide and just review the interpretation feature. I think most of you on the call are familiar with the interpretation feature that we have for this webinar. Please go to the interpretation globe at the bottom of the Zoom screen and choose the language you would prefer to hear the webinar in, either English or French. And then it's also helpful to click mute original audio as well. And so we do have simultaneous translation happening. Okay, thank you. I'd like to wait just a couple more minutes. Usually we do have a larger number of attendees on this webinar, so I just
And
want
we
to
have
give
10
people
minutes
enough time
slated.
to join, and then we can go ahead and get started.
We
My
gave
name is
ourselves
Katie
10
Schwartz
minutes for
from
this as well,
FHI
so.
360. It's really great to be joining all together today to hear about the choice work in Nigeria, specifically around creating demand for oral prep in Nigeria, and the specific work that the choice team in Nigeria did with providers in this area. Really learning about how to support providers, creating community support and overcoming stigma to really support oral prep rollout in the country. Very excited to have the team, both from Nigeria and in the United States, to on the webinar today to present their experience and their lessons learned from that work. Okay, I think people are still continuing to join, but looking at the time, I would like to dive in. If you're just joining us, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. It would be great to introduce yourself with your name, where you're coming from, what organization you're with. And please, we are doing the interpretation feature again, or the translation feature. If you go to the globe at the bottom of your screen, you can select which language you would like to hear the webinar in, either English or French, and please select mute original audio as well to ensure it's a very clear audio for you.
And just to clarify, this main presentation, if you do not go to interpretation, will be in English.
Manya, I think you're on mute.
Really?
No, we can hear Manya. Something's going on with Katie.
Or maybe it's me.
It's you.
Oh, now I can hear you.
I was just saying that if you are an English speaker, during the presentation, you can stay in the main room because the main presentation will be in English. Désolé, on peut parler le français, mais nos panélistes ne parlent que l'anglais.
Okay, so let's, okay, there is a number of people on the call. I'm just looking through the list here of people who have joined. Okay, if you haven't introduced yourself in the chat, please feel free to do so. Welcome, Dr. Abba from Nigeria. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So if you have joined this series before, you're familiar with the Oral Prep Introduction Framework. All of our webinars usually fall into one of these areas of the introduction framework. And today, the focus being on demand creation and specifically working with oral prep service delivery providers. It falls across two, both in delivery platforms, where oral prep is delivered by trained healthcare workers across the diverse delivery channels that effectively reach target end users, and also in uptake and effective use, where end users are aware of oral prep and have the support, motivation, and ability to seek it out, initiate, and effectively use PrEP during periods of HIV exposure. I will turn things over to Manya Dotson from Jopaigo, who will go through the agenda and facilitate the rest of the session. So thank you, Manya. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Katie. So we're very excited to be together with you this morning, this afternoon, to share some of the work that we have done in Nigeria around supporting healthcare providers to offer PrEP and to support clients. So we're going to take, usually we start with a presentation and then we go to discussion. This time we're turning that inside out, and we're going to begin by listening in to a conversation with several providers from Nigeria, several healthcare providers who are currently prescribing and following up clients on PrEP, and also a couple of PrEP clients from Nigeria. These folks have been with our group in Nigeria from the very beginning of our efforts to work together, and have been part of designing this package of materials that we will show you. So I first just want us to tune in and to listen. I will be asking the first questions, and then we'll open it up for others, for all of you to ask questions that you have. And if you are thinking about questions that are coming to mind as the panel is talking, please put them into the chat, and we will be able to come back to those questions and ask them of our panelists. After we do that learning and discovery session, and what I'm hoping is that you will be listening and thinking about which of these dynamics might be similar to the dynamics you might have in your country. And what some of the things you might anticipate being similar issues. After that, I'm going to turn over to my colleague, David Ilya, who is part of the Choice team who's been working on these materials. And he's going to give us a tour of the different materials that we've developed and pointing out along the way how each of these materials is addressing some of the concerns, some of the gaps, some of the needs that we've been hearing from providers. So it's a little bit inside out, but we want to take you on a journey of discovery so that all together we're learning and discovering. And then we go and say, okay, what does our evidence across many countries tell us? And how have we responded? And then finally, we're really interested in any questions that you might have about the practicalities of these materials. And anyway, these materials will be available to all of you for inspiration or even for your use, if it's something that you think could be useful for you in your context. And then finally, I know this is the very last one of what has been an amazing series of learning sessions. And I think there's a small desire, a desire to celebrate together all that we've learned and the journey that we've all taken together over these last few years. So thank you so much. All right, so I have with me today some very, very special people and the real experts of PrEP delivery. And we have a few providers who have been prescribing PrEP in Nigeria, where oral PrEP has been available for a little more than a year. And then also some of our PrEP users who can speak to their experience and some of the dynamics that they see in the healthcare setting. So if my panelists, if you can turn on your video, if you would like to turn on your video, please do. If you don't want to, that's fine. And I wanted to request that all of us, we've asked our panelists to be very open and honest about their experience. And I want us to make sure that we create a supportive environment where they are safe to speak about their experience, knowing that what happens on this call is just between us, and it's to really respect and learn from them and what they've been experiencing. So, okay. So I'm going to start with a question, and I'm going to ask two of my panelists to answer the question. And before you give the answer, if you could just introduce yourself to the group and then give your answer. Okay, does that sound all right? Okay, so the first question that I have is, I want all of us to think about this, and then I want one of our providers and one of our PrEP users to answer the question, what was your best healthcare experience? And what made that experience really, really great? A great, even maybe a delightful healthcare experience. Okay, so Luopwa Benjamin, you're a provider. Perhaps you could start.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luopa Benjamin, and I am a prep provider working in a facility with Japaigo in Adamawa State. One of my best healthcare experience actually happened not long ago when a client walked into the facility, and I was supposed to attend to him, and he looked very fearful, and he was very skeptical, and he was adamant that he didn't want a test done. But then after I took time to talk to him, and I was able to explain everything to him, he agreed to take a test. And after the test, we found out he was negative. Then I talked to him about prep, and he agreed to take prep too. And after he left, he was actually happy, and he was glad he had the whole experience. And I was so happy and satisfied. I just felt fulfilled as a provider because I was able to give that to him. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that story. And I'm wondering, what do you think it was? What was the magic? What did you do to make him feel comfortable and open up? What were the things that you did, the actions that you took that helped him feel comfortable?
Okay. The first thing I did, actually, because I noticed that he was fearful, I started talking to him about where he stayed. I just wanted to be able to find a ground where we could connect. And he was replying my questions. And he started telling me about his family and about his grandchildren and things like that. And I was able to convince him that doesn't he want to be healthy so that he would see more of his grandchildren and just be happy with them. And so we're able to connect based on that. So I think what I did was that I was able to just have a good conversation with him and just connect. I took time to have conversation with him, to connect with him. Yes.
Thank you. And what I'm hearing you saying is that it took a little bit of time to do
Yes.
that, but it made the experience more joyful for you.
Yes,
It made you more able, you were listening to what he was saying so that you could connect prep with his needs and his desires.
Yes.
So was there something that made you, you were one of the people who participated in the Empathways exercise,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So the Empathways, just for the audience, the Empathways exercise is something that we're going to talk about, but it's a training exercise that helps providers and clients figure out how to connect with one another. And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I'm wondering, was that session, did that session influence the way that you handled this man?
Yes, it did. The Empathway session was very practical, and it was very enriching for me because I was able to learn how to connect with a client. We had sessions where they would literally put you together with a client so that you would be able to interact and ask questions. And so it was very enriching for me. And before the Empathway sessions, it was actually hard to deal with clients that were very adamant and stubborn because I wouldn't know where to start from. But after the session, it opened my eye to another way that I can be able to connect with them easily, to be able to get them to trust me and listen to what I have to tell them and be able to accept it too. So yes, it helped. I don't think I would have been able to handle this situation the way I handled it without Empathway sessions.
Fantastic. So do you guys see what I'm doing here? I'm trying to awaken your thirst to learn about the materials that we have created. Thank you so much. Now, I would love to hear from Briggs. Briggs Jeremiah, can you please speak to us about, for you, what was a really great healthcare experience?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I am Briggs Jeremiah from Biostate, and I am a prep user. So, okay, my best experience was the first time I was introduced to prep. I came to the facility as I was invited by a friend. I came and I was welcomed well. I enjoyed the hospitality I embraced. The way they called me in, the way the doctor spoke to me, the way I connected with him. I knew that he was not just doing his job, but he actually cared about my health. Because it's different between doing their job and actually caring for my health. He actually cared, so I connected with him. And then he told me about prep and told me about the benefits. So I voluntarily took prep, and since then that's been very helpful.
Your sound is breaking up a bit, so I'm going to repeat back what I heard you say. So I heard Briggs saying that he is a prep user and that a great healthcare experience was the very first time when he first initiated prep. And what happened was, what made it really wonderful was that he felt that the provider really connected with him and that the provider really cared about him as a person. And they weren't just doing their job and going through the motions, but they expressed that they cared about him as a person. And then subsequently, or since that encounter, that this healthcare provider has been very, very supportive. And Briggs, perhaps you could tell us 2 actions that the healthcare provider did that really helped you feel like you were seen as a person. What are 2 practical things that they did?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay, what 2 of the things he did when that made me actually feel the connection was he wasn't actually talking much. He was allowing me to. He wanted to hear from me what I knew about the job. He didn't just pitch it to me. He actually wanted it to be an interactive session. And then the way he wasn't also formal, he was actually down to earth with the way he was having conversations with me concerning prep.
Great. So that's a really interesting thing. So what I'm hearing you saying was that the provider actually didn't talk so much, that they were really listening to you and really interested in what you had to say. And then rather than beginning by giving you a lecture about prep, they started by asking you if you had heard about it and what you had heard or what you already knew about it. And that those 2 things, the fact that the provider was asking you questions and really taking the time to listen, and that they asked you what you knew about the drug before lecturing you, made you feel respected and made you feel cared about. Am I getting you right?
Yes, you're getting me right.
Okay, great. All right, now I'd like to ask another question about a bad healthcare experience. And I'm going to go to 2 different panelists to ask about this. So, Ayeyi, can you tell us about like a really bad healthcare experience that you've had? And what made it bad for you?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, the bad experience I have. My name is Ubitin Ayeye. I'm a prep of Jipaigo in Cross River State, Nigeria. The very bad experience I've had as a prep provider was a client that came to the facility, very arrogant, very stressed up. And that day, from my own end, I also had a hectic day. And the clients came to the facility. With all humility, I tried to see how I can attend to these clients. And it was as if all effort I'm putting in, this client was sentenced to jail in prison, if I will say that, or it was a death sentence that was passed to this client. Had to like cancel. It really took time. It was hectic for me. Trying to talk to someone, try to bring yourself to a level that this person will feel comfortable and free to talk to you. But it wasn't really okay because though at the end of the day, everything later worked out. He was referred by his partner that is on prep. So for this client, he feels the client is already on ARV, that he was sent to the facility to commence ARVs. That means he's positive. So trying to cancel this client, bring the client back to the level that he should have this self-esteem and go ahead with confidence to do the test, it wasn't really easy. Together with the day was not really a good one. It was as if that day was filled with clients that were that stubborn coming to the facility to assess. So, but at the end of the day, the client was back to his normal senses after a kind of counseling and reassuring. I tried as much as possible not to be judgmental, but I really spent time. It took more than 2 hours just to bring these clients to the normal client service provider relationship. At the end of the day, the client was able to access the services at the facility, and that really gave me joy.
Wow, that sounds like a really tough day. So I'm hearing you saying it was already a difficult day. You had a headache. It had been a hectic day. And then this difficult dude rolls in. He is upset because his wife has, it sounds like he was upset and that he was defensive. And then it took a very long time to break through all of that, but that you persisted and he ended up walking away with prep. That's incredible. That's really incredible. And my gosh, taking all that time, I don't know how many of us would be patient enough to take that amount of time with a client, especially if they were not treating us very respectfully. But, the title of this presentation today is that providers are people first. And I think very often when we in public health are thinking about how we work with providers, we're just thinking about like service delivery checklists or technical scripts or clinical outcomes. And that, often really what we're dealing with is highly interpersonal interactions where a client comes in with all of their baggage from the day and the provider is carrying everything that they've had through the day, and you have to find a way to interact. So I really admire the patience that you showed in that situation. And Yeah. Okay, so here's an interesting, a follow-up question. Do you, when I'm going to ask this in a practical way, when you are having one of those days, how do you overcome that when a fresh client is in front of you? How do you work with that to be able to really openly welcome a new client when you have had a very difficult day?
Okay, when I'm having a very difficult day like that, most times immediately I get to the facility from the first client and I describe, just sense that most times I say it looks like today is going to be a tough day for me. So I just need to let go of anything that's upset. I just need to laugh. I just need to make it work, no matter who comes into the office, who comes in, who walks into the facility, no matter the character. I just try not to get angry. In fact, I just start laughing. I just put a smile on my face. No matter who comes to the office, I just have to put a smile on my face and hoping to satisfy that client before he or she leaves the facility.
Great.
That has really helped.
Briggs, I see your video is on. But I actually wanted to see if we have Alfred Bassi, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Great. I want to ask you about community support and prep. And, will you talk to us about what it feels like, some of the feelings that you've had about being a prep user and the community potentially finding out about that? And, talk about the dynamics of yourself taking prep and your fears and concerns about the community and your friends, family, partners, people that you care about. Talk about what that's like for you.
For me is I started using the PrEP medication, like I said yesterday. I had some difficulty. I had gastric difficulty. And when I called my health provider, he encouraged me to still continue using it. And with time, it will get off, I'll get used to it. And then when I introduced it to my friends, even my boyfriend, he was like, no, do you know the effects of this drug? If it's gonna affect your kidney? I told them no, and I wasn't really sure of that. So many people don't want to take it. They say if it's a means of endangering them or even getting the virus. So that is what the community sees about PrEP. But to me, I see it as good.
You see it as something good. And it's been a good, once you got past the gastric issues, you've found it to be a good thing to be on PrEP.
Yes, I did.
When you are taking PrEP, when do you take it during the day? And how do you feel as you're taking that pill? What does it mean to you to take it?
What it means to me is to protect myself and to still make my status be negative. I want to just remain as a negative client.
Great. And when do you take it each day?
I take it in the morning.
You take it in the morning. Did you pair it with another habit? Like when you brush your teeth? No, you just remember to do it in the morning.
Yes, in the morning.
Did you do anything? Is there anything that happens that helps you to remember? How do you remember every day?
When I want to brush, I remember that I have to take my medication.
Okay, so you've kind of coupled it. You've piggybacked the prep onto a different habit that you already had.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is that, again, that the opinions of the community can be very challenging, and that you yourself really had to believe strongly in the safety of prep, in the benefits of prep, and that for you, knowing all of that has given you the strength to stand up and defend your decision to use prep from people you love who are asking you difficult questions about it.
Yes.
And I heard you say that your provider was really, really helpful, and that when you called and were having problems, that he was encouraging, that he said, you can do this, it's going to go away, just one more day, and was really encouraging you to get through that difficult period when you had some side effects. Now, just so that the whole group knows, very, very many people, most people experience no side effects. And some people experience some side effects, but most people don't experience side effects. So, but again, let's hear about how important that provider is, and not just in communicating the facts, but also in giving you that extra push and helping you believe in yourself that you can do this.
When I pick up my phone to call him, most of the times when I call him, sir, please, I'm feeling this way. He said, just hold on, let me call you back. He was always there. Most of the times in the morning, he will call. At times, he used to remind me, did you take your medication this morning?
Aww.
Or like, oh, yes, I did. How do you feel? How did you feel yesterday? When I forget to call him, he will call time to time. And most of the times, he even come to visit because of my condition or the effect I had. He was always trying as much as he could to come around, visit. At times, he might give me some money, take this for lunch, take this for that, and was still encouraging me. That alone really pushed me to know that the drugs was really useful.
Wow, that is a really loving and caring provider. He must have made you feel so special. That's really heartwarming to hear that story. So there's another question that I'm going to ask, but I want to open this up and see if you all have questions. Those who are in the audience, if you have questions, please write those questions into the chat. I'm going to continue asking my own questions until I see some questions. And then as questions come in, I will ask those questions to the panelists. Okay, so I've got a question. So we've just talked a little bit about community support. And I want to ask my providers, my prep providers, community backlash, community support, and community backlash. Can any of you talk about your concerns about community backlash and tell us about community backlash and what your concerns are about community backlash? So maybe I could get Luopua to speak to that.
Okay. You said concerns about community backlash, if I'm correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So some of the concerns I have regarding community backlash is people with religious sentiment tend to feel we are giving people like a license to just be promiscuous, and it could really be bad because they are like really tagging you as someone who is encouraging bad behavior sometimes. Yeah, so I think that's one that really stands out for me. Yes.
Great. Yes. So there's that sometimes there's certain members of the community who feel like you might be corrupting the community by offering PrEP.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay. Then I'd like to ask another provider. So Isaac,
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't missed you and your big smile. Can you please tell us about talk to me about the support of the community and how important it is for you to have the support of the community.
Okay, ma. I think I really appreciate the community that the first community we went for demand creation and health education and awareness of PrEP. Immediately we passed on the health education. They were so excited and they really received us and they buy our idea. So the aspects that they contribute positively to the support of PrEP uptake in the community was to go ahead and get awareness to every individual of the community. And this also help us in the community to reduce the rate of stigmatization among people living with HIV and AIDS. Because now if you enter the community, they will hear them say, don't be afraid, take PrEP so that we cannot have HIV. And they were just happy that we are coming to reduce the rate of HIV transmission in their community. So they are really supporting in terms of creating awareness, mobilization, sensitization. They also, anytime we call them for a community outreach, they will use every means, their town crier, their town hall, the great environment, and they'll be happy. Or they are not afraid of enrolling clients on PrEP. Now, they even give us a room to go and refill our clients without fear of stigmatization, because now most of the people in the community, especially that young adolescents, girls and boys, they are on PrEP. And most of them, they don't really know the difference between PrEP and PEP because of the content of it. So we now use that way to reduce, try to talk to them and try to reduce stigmatization. And they are really trying, they're helping us to gain ground in PrEP uptake, especially in a way of creating awareness, making more people to know that there's a current drug that you can take without being infected with HIV and AIDS. And even with this, they will now go forward. We still advise them on family planning that this can only stop HIV and AIDS without stopping STI and unwanted pregnancy. And I think we also improve the level of people adhering to family planning through the community participation and involvement. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. So Isaac is saying that that they really proactively engaged the community before even, or as they were beginning to prescribe PrEP, to explain to each and every member of the community that this is something that's about helping this community be HIV free and helping this community to become a community where everyone is working together to help keep the community HIV free, and to reduce fear about HIV and reduce the stigma around it. And I think the most amazing thing that I just heard you say was that the community actually gave you a room to be a prescription, a place where people could come and pick up their medications. And the other thing is, I want everyone to be kind of note that people find it difficult to walk away with a bottle that is essentially looks like an antiretroviral bottle. You know, the PrEP bottle just looks like any other kind of drug. And I think it can be hard for people who are on ARTs to carry that bottle around. It can be hard for everyone to carry around a bottle that maybe people have ideas about. So keep that in mind, because we have a solution for that in our materials. Okay, so we have a couple of questions that are coming in. So while I still have you, Isaac, can you answer this question? Is PrEP offered to anyone who wishes to have it, or is it really targeted at certain groups?
Yes, it's really targeted at certain groups, but those people who are at high risk of contracting HIV and AIDS, if they're working and they are at risk, and after assessing them using risk stratification to test them for HIV and AIDS, and they are negative to HIV positive, we now go further to do urinalysis or creatinine clearance test, and they are eligible. We enroll them because they are eligible. They know that they are high risk of contracting HIV and AIDS. But our focus group are the young adolescent girls and boys, because they are sexually active. So our main target in the community are the young adolescent girls and boys, because of their sexual libido. So if we can hold a huge number of this set of people to be on PrEP, epidemic control in the community will be about at least 90 to 95%. So our target is for the young adolescents, girls and boys, but those people who are at high risk, the male sexual partner, the female sexual workers who are also at high risk, we target them also in the community to educate the PrEP. Because I can know a scenario that we walk into one hotel, we gather them, we educate them, and they were very happy. All of them, but we didn't tell them to stop using their condom. We differentially tell them the benefit of PrEP and the benefit of condom. So all of them were happy, and that fateful day, we were able to enroll female sex worker or more than 50 on PrEP after screening, proper screening. So those are the set of people we target in the community. We know where there are female sexual worker, male who sleep with male partner, and our main community target are the adolescent young girls and men and boys.
So yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying is that if somebody comes in and they're saying, I think I need PrEP, that you then have a conversation with them to find out if, why, but that people are aware of their risk and that's why they're asking about it. And that in general, though, the policy in Nigeria is that we're really focused on groups of people who are known to have higher risk. Now, I do have some questions for Briggs, Jeremiah. I've got a lot of questions for our clients. So let's ask Jeremiah, how long have you been on PrEP? How long do you think you will stay on PrEP? What do you think might make you go off of PrEP? What are your intentions with PrEP? How's it going, and how long, and where do you see it going? I'm calling on you because I just saw your face come up on the video.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. For those who are just joining, I am Briggs Jeremiah from Bayelsa, and I am a PrEP user, Bayelsa, Nigeria. And how long I've been on PrEP? I took PrEP first on, I think on the 8th of May, 2021. That was the first time I started taking PrEP, and since then it has been, it has actually been stressful taking it every day, but I joined it to another activity in my daily calendar, so I could always remember to take PrEP. And during the first period, I think the first few months when I took PrEP, I had some side effects, but after continuation of taking the PrEP, the side effects actually died off, or rather I stopped having those side effects. And then how long I think I will take it? I will take it for as long as I feel I am out of this risk way. As long as I feel, okay, probably I'm not married and I'm still unfaithful, I will surely take PrEP. And then what I feel about PrEP, I actually feel PrEP is, for me, I'm a person who doesn't like condoms, like I'll say. I'm not really a fan of condoms, so I prefer PrEP, so I could actually go skin, so I prefer PrEP. And I think PrEP is actually helpful.
Yeah, so, something that a lot of folks are concerned about is that if PrEP is there, then everyone is going to stop using condoms. But Jeremiah, what I hear you saying is that you were never really a fan of condoms. And so your use of condoms was spotty, And that this has given you peace of mind to protect you against something that was already happening. And now you have more peace of mind about that.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I have more peace of mind.
Great, thank you. Okay, so it's about time for us to move. Not quite yet. We still have a couple more minutes. So I wanted to ask, I saw a great question. So what I'm hearing folks saying is that having the support of your community, having the support of loved ones is something that can really help you to commit to taking PrEP long-term. And I'm wondering, and this is a question for any of my providers or any of my PrEP users, was there anything that you do, or was there anything that was helpful that you do to help clients talk with the people that they care about? And, is this something that you have as part of the counseling? And if so, what do you do? And for our clients, what helps you to talk with the people in your life who could support you?
Okay, can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead, A.
Okay. In Cross River State, precisely where we work, what we are into to address that, we are doing more of community dialogue. And these dialogue sessions, we are involving the traditional leaders, religious leaders, the key stakeholders in the community. And to a point, we are also involving some organizations, faith-based, to create data, to have dialogue with them about uptake of PrEP services. And also we are involving the AGY, like in one of our sections in community dialogue. The AGY, while we're trying to discuss the expression from the traditional leader during the meeting was like, so this really happened. And I think I need to excuse these girls these adolescents to really open up. And when of them, they were afraid that when their parents should see them with this, they will be beaten, they will be called names, they will be sent away. And with that, they are afraid, even though they are at risk of getting HIV infection. So during that dialogue, they were made to understand that we are not only ending with them, we are having dialogue sessions with them at the women meetings, the men and all that. Already we've entered the community. So they need to be free. And we hope at the end of the dialogue, which we are having a headway, the community will support them. Their family members will support them. Their siblings will support them, because most of them are at risk of getting HIV infection. They are at risk of being abused. They are at risk of being raped. They are at risk of so many things. So they are really ready to start taking PrEP at the end of the dialogue session we had. I think that has really helped us.
And AE, was this one of was this the dialogue session that we've been working on with our team, the community dialogue session, to create community support?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So see, I'm doing it again. I'm trying to make you all thirsty to see the tools. I'm making you thirsty. I hope everyone is thirsty. Okay, let's hear from, any advice about what providers can do to help PrEP users talk with the people they care about PrEP. Luopua. Well, I think we're having a problem hearing. Briggs. Luopua's sound is not working. Briggs, do you have any advice for all of us about bringing up a tough conversation? Okay, let's take is the hand raised, AE? Katie, whose hand is raised here?
Yes, it's AE.
Okay, I think that's a leftover hand from the
Okay.
last question. Yeah, it's down. Okay, well, now that everyone is good and thirsty, we're going to turn to our presentation where we are showing you, we did many exercises just like the one that we just heard to really listen to prep clients and really listen to prep providers and people who would be potentially clients, and to really get inside of their concerns, their fears, and their needs and their desires. And our goal was to create a set of materials that would support providers to be more effective prep providers and to really help them through those emotional and relational issues that can complicate service delivery. And this is why we say providers are people first, because as we heard, there are so many things that can influence the way that a service interaction goes. It can be the mood that you're in that day. It can be the mood of the client as they're coming in. There are fears. People are bringing their fears to this medication. They're bringing their hopes to this medication. And I think that we have heard over and over through our panelists how important it is to have that connection, a connection where both the provider and the young person or the client feel supported, where they feel seen, where they feel treated with respect, and that they are in a partnership to make the prep journey successful. So let's just go through this quickly. And then I'm going to turn over to David to give you a tour of the materials. Next slide. Okay, so I just want to introduce you and give you a sneak peek at Gen N, which is generation negative, or an HIV negative generation. And what we've done is create a movement, a branded movement that allows everyone in the community and everyone to play a role in helping create an HIV-free generation. And you see that there are really some big commitments that we're asking people to commit to, that we ask people to trust health workers to help people stay healthy. And in Nigeria, our work was really focused on young people, adolescent girls and young women, but so often we see that what works for some of our most vulnerable groups are principles that really work for everyone. The second thing is we are committing to encouraging young people to keep their bodies and relationships safe, and we're helping young people to get tested and to take their medications. And as you see, there's really everyone can be involved and everyone can be a Gen N hero. So that's our big idea, is that we're not asking people we're not focusing on risk. We're not focusing on risky behaviors. We're not focusing on any of the things that might stigmatize a conversation about HIV. But this is a positive movement. It is forward-looking, and it's something that we can all work together for a community good. Next slide, please. I'm not going to really spend time on this, but this work was supported by PEPFAR through USAID through an activity called Choice, which has been implemented by both FHI 360 and JPIGO. And we have worked together with our colleagues at FHI 360 in Nigeria to create these materials. And so we had lots of different things that we were doing as part of this work. But one of these things is a package to engage providers and make it easier and more delightful to be a PrEP provider and to support clients with their PrEP journey. Next slide, please. Now, we've just done a little bit of a listening exercise ourselves to learn about some of the dynamics around creating demand for PrEP and some of the dynamics around prescribing PrEP. And honestly, we have learned a lot over the last 10 years or so, both from different design and human-centered design activities that have targeted young people and, you know, anyone who's at need for HIV prevention, HIV care and treatment, family planning, and other reproductive health interventions. And I'll call these the sensitive interventions. The interventions and the health services that have something to do with sex and sexuality. And those are always the ones that are a little bit like there's feelings there, right? I don't think we have quite the same feelings around hypertension or if you break your toe. People are not concerned about the stigma of breaking your toe. So, you know, the sexy health issues. And there's some really important things that we have learned from all of that, that we knew that our intervention needed to address. And these are findings from all across Africa, but we see them repeated in many, many countries. And my question for you is to look at these and to say, do these feel like they will be relevant in Cote d'Ivoire, in Togo, in Mali, in Benin, in Ghana, in Sierra Leone? You know, where will are these dynamics the same? And, you know, one of the things that we see is that norming PrEP in the community is really necessary to enable and allow providers to feel free and supported to prescribe, and also so that PrEP users feel free and proud of using PrEP, so that people don't have to sneak around and hide what they're doing. That is really important, and that we have to spend time and resources building that community support for PrEP. Countries like South Africa and Lesotho and Kenya have all made some mistakes that they regret, and they would say, don't do this. When they went out and first started talking about PrEP, they started talking about it as being used by at-risk populations or key populations, this is for young people. And when they did that, it actually stigmatized PrEP and made it very hard for the people who need it most to be able to get it. So a big piece of advice that we all have from those countries is you've got to start by norming PrEP and making PrEP something that's positive and part of a community good. Another thing that we learned, which was quite interesting, we learned this in Kenya, is that a lot of particularly sex workers, MSM, and groups that are, they have to kind of fight for respect, and they kind of have to fight for, to be who they are. They really don't like taking orders, and really prefer to have conversation and choices in their counseling interactions. So that was something that you'll see we try to address. And, you know, finally, we really saw that we know this from before, that both clients and providers need support and affirmation from their social networks to support their decisions. And so if anyone is really trying to do something alone in their social environment, whether it's taking PrEP, whether it's prescribing PrEP, whether it's being a PrEP champion, that it's very difficult to be fighting that fight alone. And that, you know, the more that we can build social support, even just in social networks for that activity, that it's much more successful. And finally, this is a really interesting insight specifically from West Africa that our colleagues at Breakthrough Action have come out with, which is that often we see that healthcare providers really think that they're going to be judged based on clinical outcomes and clinical checklists. And I don't know about you, but as we were just talking for the last 40 minutes or so with our panelists, I didn't hear anyone once bring up a clinical checklist or clinical outcomes. What I heard and what we all heard was people talking about interpersonal dynamics. And so, an interpersonal dynamics being really determinant to how those interventions are going. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to David, who's going to walk us through and give us a tour of the package of materials that we've developed to help providers create those social support that and all of those interpersonal dynamics that make PrEP, prescribing and taking PrEP a really joyful experience for everyone. So David, take it away. And if we could go to the next slide, please.
Thank you, Maya, for that. I was so glad when I listened to you. So I'm going to jump right into the presentation. As we can see from the screen, relevant insights were harnessed from other countries and built on. Our research will reflect what has been found in other countries. With this foundation from other countries' research, an insight from journey map for providers during the HCD process in Nigeria. Providers were excited about PrEP because of the reason as seen on the slide. They believe it works, believe it is safe, good for discordant couples, but are reluctant to provide PrEP to clients because of some reasons as highlighted. They feel uncomfortable with adolescent girls and young women clients, fear encouraging immoral behavior, doubts clients' ability to adhere, among so many other issues. But in this study, we also found that they crave for some things to be able to provide PrEP services, better materials to help clients, reassurance about commodity security, training in dealing with AG-wide support from the community, as seen from research from AIDS-free and breakthrough action. Next slide, please. Segmentation of providers was done based on research. And what came out during the journey map from Nigeria, which was an interesting, revealing, and practical process, was that the providers were all concerned about community support, fear of backlash, among other issues, as we had from discussion with the panelists and insights from the ACD-like process. It's good to remember that providers are part of families and they don't live alone. They are members of a community, members of religious bodies, and have religious values, biases, and moralistic beliefs. And this can be a challenge when providing PrEP to their clients, especially the adolescent girls and young women. I can clearly remember during an FGD we had with some providers, precisely in Bielsa early this year, the question was asked, would we be comfortable to provide PrEP to their daughter? And some of the responses were, oh, from my daughter, oh, not my daughter. And one of them said, who I believe is an activist, is more interested in his daughter's future. So as you can see from the slides, the moralist is there, the loving auntie is there, the activist is there, the warrior is there, and the rule follower. Each of these providers have their different profiles and beliefs towards providing PrEP to their clients. Next slide, please. Together we are Gen N. This establishes Gen N as a movement. emphasizing the power to make Nigeria HIV-free. Up till now, we've struggled with HIV stigma, and we try to figure out how we can completely destigmatize the conversation about HIV and HIV services and give people an opportunity to be heroes in their own little space. Gen N is the power of what is possible when we work together towards a HIV-free Nigeria. As can be seen, it's a fresh narrative for a new generation. Power, connection, and belonging to the movement, confidence and freedom of life. And everyone can be a Gen N hero, as it's clearly captured in the slide. Be you a provider, a key opinion leader, a religious leader, an auntie, an uncle, an AGY, and a parent. It is more about the pride and not the shame to be a Gen N hero. Next slide, please. I'm going to take us on a tour of material we developed to address common concern of the providers. All this material will be available, I believe, very soon on PrepWatch. As can be seen on the slide, we have the PrEP common concern. And this card contains a frequently asked questions about PrEP. How we take it, PrEP and sexuality, how to engage and align with a smile while talking to a client, and even talking about community engagement with clients. Then we can, next to it is the Gen N HIV Generation Commitment Card. This is part of the community of Gen N providers community dialogue that was for engagement that was used. This is to indicate commitment to be an advocate of the movement for a HIV-free Nigeria after the whole community engagement process. And next to it is the Empathways training exercise that Maya and the panelists have had a discussion, that have discussed during the session. If you remember, Lupua mentioned about her own experience after the whole exercise of using Empathways engagement, how it was able to help her bridge the gap in her counseling process. And this is designed to make the service interaction more personal. Because I can clearly remember during one of the training exercise, one of the providers was asked for feedback, and they said, this helped to identify gap in their counseling process, and their takeaway is that they hope to be better, they plan to be better providers with this exercise. And a client, a lady of, I think 16 or thereabout, said, if she can get a provider like the one she had during this exercise, she is willing and glad to take PrEP. So it is really an enriching process. And it's a training exercise that has 3 rounds. After the pledge for the provider, the rounds are the open up session with several questions for us to choose from. This question can be answered both by the provider and the client. And then discovery stage, where the provider and the client discover things about themselves. And then the connection stage. And all these materials came about from the key desires of the provider, which is respect, community support, comfort interacting with young clients, and better information on PrEP. We are encouraging providers to say the pledge and use some of the open up questions as a counseling client, not only when they're having an exercise, but also in their counseling private session with whoever the clients approaches them. And then we have the PrEP coaching guide, which is actually a short videos that's having an optimizer in a pocket. And these videos are in 3 different categories, and they address issues concerning PrEP. One of the videos is about PrEP basic frequently asked questions. The next is PrEP for adolescent girls and young women, myths and misconception all about PrEP. This helps to address it. And then the last is PrEP, the community and you. And then finally, we stand with Jan M. posters there. This is to be placed in the space of the provider as a kind of everyday commitment that he is standing with the Gen N generation by taking PrEP. Next slide, please. And here we have the counseling support. We've heard how providers and clients talk about how important the counseling is. We brought something into the counseling to make it more pleasant and enjoyable for everyone. This inspires providers and helps them to effectively engage with their patients. Finally, we have seen from what we have seen from everywhere, the need for continuation and using PrEP every day can be a challenge. So here we have the Gen N manifesto that is placed in this space of a provider, where he looks at it every day to affirm his commitment to the Gen N movement. As we can see, I can't tell you what to do. I'm here to support you and advise you. That's talking to a client. I believe in you. This, I believe, is share a client on. I'm with you on the journey. We've even heard from one of our panelists how the support is really needed by them in that space. And then we have the counseling wheel, which provides an empathetic and scientific approach to the counseling. And down there under the counseling wheel, we've seen a part of the Empathways Exercise cards, where it shows the pledge that is taken daily by a provider to aspire him and inspire him to make commitments towards providing better services to a client when they come to access PrEP and other services. Next slide, please. This is a brochure. This is a take-home materials that has been provided to the provider to support his counseling process. So what we have here is a brochure that has information on the front and the back. Down to the right, that is the front part of the brochure. It shows where it welcomes a client to Gen M movement, congratulating him or her and inviting them into the movement of Gen N, which, like I said earlier, is a free generation of HIV in Nigeria. And on the back or the other side of the card or the brochure, we have some other information that can be useful for a user to take PrEP successfully. This card can be used by a provider to engage a client on joining the journey of PrEP. This is for talking about PrEP and then managing side effects. All this information are there to help the user to adhere to continuation of PrEP. As we can see also, right in the middle is my plan. As one of the panelists indicated earlier on that, one of the users said she has keyed her plan to brushing in the morning. Whenever she wakes up and while she's brushing, she remembers to take PrEP. So it makes you link PrEP medication to a habit so that you don't miss out on any dosage while taking PrEP. And up on the left, we have stickers that are provided for a provider to give to those on PrEP. Because from feedback that we've gotten, people say they usually link PrEP to ART medication. And for that, they don't feel comfortable when people see them with it. So these stickers are given to PrEP users for them to stick it on the bottle, which makes it look so attractive, appealing, and comfortable for a user to carry around and take his medication as when due. Next slide, please. as we can see, community support and norming prep is a very important part of the intervention, as we've had from discussion with the panelists, that what matters most to them, among others, is support from the community, acceptance in the community. In answer to this, it is not only creating about Generation N, but also to bring part of that process, to bring in the community members and healthcare workers together to muster a mutual respect and support while providing PrEP to our AGYW, that's adolescent girls and young women who clients in general. And then also it helps in norming PrEP in the community. And in that space, it helps us to address common issues of misconception around PrEP, and it helps in norming PrEP within the community to garner their support. As can be seen during that process, each and everyone is given the opportunity to share their experiences about HIV, and then also an opportunity when questions are asked to indicate what their beliefs are. Like, will you normally support your child to take PrEP? So that all those issues of concern will be addressed. And after which they will not be invited to join the Gen M movement by signing the commitment cards as earlier shown in previous slides. Next slide, please. How it fits together. This is a socio-ecological model that speaks to every layer of folks in the intervention, starting from the client to the provider, to the community, and then the whole Gen M movement as a new HIV narrative in Nigeria, and how they are mutually linked together and not a stand-alone intervention for a particular group of people. Looking at the material, there is a flow and immersion of each and everyone in the whole intervention process. And the client, starting from the client to the provider and to the community as a whole. Next slide, please. Key takeaways from this whole process. It highlighted that the users were also part of this process. That is, the users, the providers were part of developing this process. So it's not a standalone process. Each and every of this material that was developed, the client, the provider, and the community were as a whole engaged in developing this material. And also brought out clearly that apart from the clinical approach to providing PrEP, empathy and commitment is a major factor in making our clients take PrEP, remain on PrEP, and adhere to it. And it's also the importance of norming PrEP through the community dialogue and engagement, as clearly brought out by Aye while she was discussing her engagement with the community while using the Gen N community dialogue tool, where everybody can be a Gen N hero in their little space after engagement along the line. Then finally, but not the last, the community support and trust is a very important key in norming PrEP in Nigeria and making Nigeria a HIV-free country. Thank you, Maya. Over to you.
David, thank you so much. And thank you all. I've seen there's some really interesting questions that have been coming. Thank you all so much for engaging with us. And you can continue to engage with us and ask us additional questions as you have it. We do need to wrap up. We're about 10 minutes from the end of this session. These materials are have been developed in Nigeria together very closely with NACA, the National AIDS Control Programs, and NASCOP. And they are being integrated into all of the implementing partners' activities moving forward. So, and we are currently looking for some resources to roll out some of the higher mass media elements of this campaign, which we envision being like a real movement across all of Nigeria. But in the short term, these materials are being integrated already into the service delivery components of the EPIC and RISE programs across all of Nigeria. So it's been, and hopefully a year from now, we'll be able to come back and have some great clinical outcomes and improvements to report on because we're so excited about these materials. So anyway, thank you all so much. Thank you, David. Thank you, panelists, and back over to you, Katie.
Okay, thank you, Manya, and thank you everyone so much for that great presentation. And I think we all learned a lot. I'm really appreciative of all of you who could join, especially the providers and PrEP users who participated in the panel. So this, as I mentioned at the start of the call, this is the last West Africa Regional PrEP Learning Network webinar. We hope that all of you will join our Global PrEP Learning Network platform and webinar series that is going to be continuing. Sorry, can we just go back one slide? Oh yes, just looking at the participation since we've had since June 2020 when we started this webinar series. We've conducted 12 webinars to date across the oral PrEP introduction framework or the PrEP value chain. And during this time, oral PrEP implementation has begun in Ghana and Mali and will soon launch in Burkina Faso, Liberia, and Togo. Thank you so much for so many of you who have been with us through these 12 webinars, and many of you have joined quite a few of those. So thank you so much for your participation as we grew this network and carried out the full series. Really excited to hopefully see you all in the Global PrEP Learning Network space as we move forward. The webinar series will remain on PrEPWatch. If you're not familiar with that, Casey, maybe you could just put that link in the chat. So the recordings from previous sessions will remain available. And all of the resources from Nigeria that were presented today will be available on PrEPWatch shortly, and we can send an email out to this group when they are live. Those materials are meant to be adapted or used however you think is helpful in your setting, if they're helpful for you. And there is the link at the bottom of this slide as well to join the Global PrEP Learning Network as well. So thank you so much, everyone. It has been a real pleasure talking with you monthly for the past year and a half, and enjoy the rest of your days. Hopefully we'll be talking more with you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Merci à toi aussi. Oh, merci beaucoup.
Merci tout le monde.
Bye bye, Cathy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Au
revoir et à bientôt.
À bientôt.
Russia. Bye-bye.